Right, welcome to the next session in this series of AI and technology and catering. You're going to be spending some time now with Jenny Woods in the States from Touchwork. It's 10 past 10 in the morning there, isn't it, for you? Quarter past 10 in
Yes.
the morning for you, Jenny. So a decent hour to
Yes.
be doing that. Another bit of just quick housekeeping for the session. You'll know that your mic's muted, but you can communicate with Jenny or myself and the other participants in the chat function, or use the Q&A to ask any questions if you haven't already submitted them as part of your registration process. So this session's being recorded, and the recorded session will be in the past events in the professional development events section in the Academy part of the TUCO website, but you will need login details to be able to do that. It will also be in the Facebook page if you want to have a look there. It's running live there at the moment as well. And it will also be on the TUCO YouTube page eventually. So I will now hand over to Jenny. Thank you, Jenny.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Sarah. Well, we're excited to be here today. For those of you who aren't familiar with Touchwork, I will get into a little bit about who we are. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're using AI to understand and respond to customer feedback. We'll talk about how we can turn audits into actionable items with AI. And then we're going to talk about reporting in general. So let's get into it. So just a little bit about Touchwork. We are a voice of the customer company, so we are very focused on customer experience. We started back in the early 2000s when texting kind of became a thing. We saw it as an opportunity to get feedback from customers. So we are very focused in the higher education space, as well as healthcare, airports, some other verticals, but really higher education is where we are. We work with over, I want to say 200 or 300 schools in the US at this point. In Canada, we are starting to work with schools in the UK, which is why TUCO asked us to come present today. So definitely expanding into the UK market. So really quick, we help, customers collect feedback in many ways. So some of it's in the moment feedback where they're just scanning a QR code or texting in information. There's mystery shopping. There's in-room notifications when you're having events. Someone wants to communicate something to you. Problem reporting, like think bathrooms where you don't have high traffic, but people are sending information to you. We also do traditional surveys and audits and inspections. So definitely a wide range of ways customers can submit issues or positive comments. And so what ends up happening is you have a ton of data and you really want a way to easily sift through that data. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So how do we respond to customers easily using AI? So there's some easy functionality that AI can help us with. So as an example, this is kind of one of our dashboards. It shows that a customer has sent in a message. Well, AI automatically tags it with a sentiment. It tells you if that comment is good or bad. So really how I see this working is if somebody sends you something positive, while you want to see that, you want to understand it, it's probably not something you need to respond to immediately. But say you get a negative comment that there's chicken on the line that's undercooked and you see a negative sentiment. So you can respond to that right away. You can have your management team responding to it as well as responding to the customer immediately. So this helps you kind of identify what you need to respond to immediately and what you might have time to respond to. And then when you actually want to respond to customers, So fun fact about me, I actually did work in higher ed for 14 years. And during that time, I had teams of people who would be responding to customers. And if somebody was having a bad day, or maybe somebody wasn't trained as well as they should have been, maybe their tone wasn't the best in the email. So one of the functionalities we use is we use AI to draft emails. So as you can see, you can either respond via text or email. You can make it a professional sounding email or text, or you can make it informal. There's different tones that we have. Some are more fun than others. So if you're responding to a student who's had a good experience, you probably want it to be a little bit more fun than others. And all you do is click a button, it generates the text or email. And then all you have to do is just edit it slightly if you choose to. 9 times out of 10, it's pretty perfect. And then you can just respond. So it takes the guesswork out of how should you respond. Drafting that email takes time. This takes maybe 30 seconds. And we also have the ability to have screens within dining facilities. So sometimes these messages are going up on screens. So if you want them to be more fun, we also have the ability to make it kind of a more playful tone so the students interact more with you. And then you want to really start uncovering trends. Like I said, you have so much data. How do you sift through it? Well, you can start asking questions of the data. So this is asking for, 10 suggestions. And I'm going to put my glasses on because I can't see it. But suggest 10 actionable improvements based on customer feedback. So rather than spending hours digging through data, you can ask a question of the data and it'll pull up those 10 actionable items that you can start working on right away. In speaking to our customers before we had AI and the ability to do this, they would spend like a day sifting through data, putting reports together to share with leadership, or their teams to figure out what they should be focused on. And now it just takes minutes to do this type of functionality. So again, you're getting so much data, and AI helps you kind of sift through it. So a lot of questions that we like to collect are questions that we know are working for customers and we know get good responses from AI. So we actually kind of create a database for our customers. And this is kind of some of the questions you can think about that you can answer quickly with AI based on customer feedback. So what employees receive the most praise? What food do your customers want to see more of? So what's getting the best response, right? So that you know, okay, maybe we should have that on the menu more often. What are your biggest complaints? So you can address those issues that you might need training for. So as you can see, these are some basic questions, but it pulls it from your data. So it's taking that guesswork out of what do we need to focus on? What do we need to be doing? We also do a lot of audits. So rather than just that in the moment feedback where a customer is telling you, hey, I'm in the dining hall, I really like the food today, or this employee was rude to me today, we actually can do audits. So think like secret shopping, as well as like your front of a house and back of house audits. Some customers who outsource dining actually use audits to walk through with their dining provider to make sure that they're on the same page and that everybody is kind of doing what they should be from like a cleanliness standpoint, from a training standpoint to temperature checks. So with these audits, also, there's a large amount of data being collected on a regular basis. And so turning that into actionable items can be a challenge, but with AI, it makes it so much easier. So let's look through that. So if we look at mystery shopping, the way our system works is a mystery shopper has a dashboard. So they're going in and answering questions. They're uploading photos from their dashboard. They can do it right from their phone. And then that dashboard, as soon as they fill out all the questions in the dashboard, it automatically goes into our system. And then our system has KPIs within the system. So we have dashboards that tell you ratings of certain locations. It can do ratings based on certain things like cleanliness or staff friendliness. So we do have dashboards that kind of show you high level how you're doing, but sometimes you want to dig in a little further. And rather than reading every single audit, you can actually aggregate and analyze that data with AI. So as an example, this is asking, again, I'm going to put my glasses on, provide the top 10 insight into food programs, offering based on freshness, taste, and overall quality. So you can kind of see right there, it gives you an idea on different locations, some of the feedback that you've gotten, and maybe some improvements that need to be made right then and there with just one quick question. So if you're trying to think of, how can we improve? This is a great way to do it. Our system allows you to choose based on date range. So you can pick dates of, the data that you want to analyze. So it could be like this says last month, so that's what you're focused on. But it could also be daily, it could be hourly if you want it to. The other area where this can really help you is staff recognition. So as you saw, one of the questions we had is what employee received the most praise this week? That's a great way to go back to your team and say, hey, everybody's telling us how much they love you. Thanks for your hard work. As we all know that, bringing on new employees, it costs you money. So if you can keep employees happy and well trained, it saves you money overall. So not only do you have the ability to do staff recognition with AI, but you also can figure out where you might need to do training. So a lot of times what we're seeing is if there's negative feedback from that in the moment where if somebody was rude to a customer or during an audit, if we notice somebody's not wearing gloves or not checking temperatures the way they're supposed to be, this gives you an opportunity to do some training. So you can actually ask AI, where do we need to focus training this week? And it can give you suggestions on that as well. And, it goes back to, training employees, but also it can help you reduce risk. So if we're noticing that there's some issues, the AI can identify that and help you figure out how to address the issues. So just as an example, this is kind of asking for two examples, a paragraph each, like where are we doing well and where do we need to work a little bit harder? So this kind of breaks it down right then and there about what they're doing well and what they need to focus on a little bit more. I'm just going to give you a second to read it rather than me read it to you. But you can see how specific it is and how it really breaks it down by, the positives and the negatives to help you really figure out where you need to focus your attention. And now, if you really think about it, before we had AI, the sheer volume of data, it's a lot to sift through. So a lot, like I said, we were hearing from customers it was taking hours or days to do. And typically there was someone who their job was just to sit down and like analyze the data. And now they can be doing more important things like actually responding to what's happening and improving your program rather than just sifting through data. So they're doing more important work that's actually going to further your program and help you increase revenue and create a better customer experience. The other way that AI can be used is if you're doing weekly meetings or morning huddles. Like I mentioned, we can pick date ranges. So if you have these huddles with your team, I know most teams do in the morning, they'll get together and they'll talk about a few things. This is a great and easy way. Instead of trying to talk to all the managers from the day before and figure out, okay, what were the biggest issues? What do we need to focus on? You can actually come into the system, identify, okay, what are 5 good things we could talk about? What are 5 things we need to improve upon? Share with the management team and say, does this look great before we talk to the staff? Like, does this make sense based on what's happened the past 2 days? They can say yes or no. So it's a huge time saver, as you can see, to be able to just pull that data at a moment's notice. And last but not least, we have the ability to do AI-powered reporting. So when I oversaw dining or catering in the UK, That was just one part of my job. So I actually had multiple areas roll up to me. So I couldn't be in that facility all day, every day, understanding what was happening. I needed high level overviews so that I could figure out, okay, what are our challenges and what's going on great so that I can have those conversations with our team. So we have automated reporting that does that for you. So we can help you identify what are your KPIs, like, what are you working on? What do you want to focus on? And we can create reporting that goes out to your team either daily, weekly, monthly, however often you want, that really helps you identify all this information in a quick, easy report. And it again takes that guesswork out of there's tons of data, what should we be focused on, and really narrows down to what is the most important thing you need to be focused on. So I realize that is a lot of information. But as you can see, we collect feedback and then turn it into actionable items. So, just having feedback's one thing because your management team can actually respond if there's an issue, like I was saying. We're all chicken on the line. Obviously, we want to respond immediately to that. But some other things are longer term actionable items like training or praise of an employee that you need a little bit more time to be able to respond and collect the data to understand it. So AI helps with all of that. So that is what I have today, but I'd love to hear some questions from the audience to better understand, you know, what does or doesn't make sense to you.
Thank you, Jenny. Yeah, we've had a few in already when they did the registration, so I've got a couple
Great.
here for you. Um,
Wonderful.
what is the average timescale for implementation of the program for Touchwork?
Yeah. So typically we can implement in a month or less, depending on how fast you can work with us to have a kickoff call and get things set up. So pretty quickly we can turn things around. It just depends. Some schools do one solution, some do multiple solutions. If you do multiple solutions, probably take about a month. But if you're doing one solution, we could typically get that ramped up in a week or two, again, depending on your availability. We do have a solution called Order It. So it allows you to use an app. So students can use an app to order if they have food allergies, and it takes all their allergens off the menu so they can order safely. That solution takes about 3 months to implement because it takes time to build out menus and get the allergens, but that's not really based on feedback, but it is a solution we created based on higher education's feedback and the need for a solution for students with allergies. That takes a little more time, but the rest are fairly quick.
Excellent. The allergy one sounds really useful. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Um, how are you managing and maintaining the accuracy of your data on an ongoing basis to control the bias for your responses, for your customer
Yeah,
feedback?
that makes sense. So I think one of the great things about our solution is that management gets alerts as the information's coming in. So as feedback's coming in, your team can get either text or email, whatever they prefer. So they're seeing that information real time. And so when AI kind of rolls it up and pulls it all together, it would be very obvious if it was biased because they're seeing the information all day, every day. And we're collecting information straight from customers. So we're not pulling outside data in besides the customer feedback. So some AI is actually pulling from like the internet and pulling other information from different sources, and you don't know if they're trusted sources. Our information strictly comes from customer feedback, and it's just in our platform, so we're not pulling from any other resources. So that really helps us keep the integrity of the data.
Excellent, thank you. So what AI technologies are best suited for improving menu recommendations and enhancing user satisfaction?
Yeah, I would say the out of all our solutions, the two that I think would help the most with menus and just overall customer satisfaction are text and tell, because a student or customer in general can scan a QR code or text to a number and give their feedback, and that you get that instantly. And so with the AI, you can ask questions of that data. So it's what are the students liking the most? What are they asking for that we're not giving them? So that you can kind of tailor a menu based on student feedback. And also hear what's going on good or bad. And then in addition to that, I also think secret shopping is another great way to build menus and get the best customer feedback. Because you're kind of having someone who understands what your standards are, go in and kind of look around and listen to hear what's happening in those spaces, to really help you get a bigger picture of what's going on. So I would say those two are probably the best for building out menus, really understanding customer feedback.
Thanks, Jenny. So how do you ensure that your AI systems are user friendly and also accessible, sorry, to non-technical users?
Yeah. So the great thing about our AI is like we have trained our AI to be as easy to use as possible. And we actually work with our customers that we've had relationships with for years before we ever roll anything out to make sure it's as easy to use as possible for them. And then we also constantly make updates based on customer feedback, which I have to say, I worked in the higher ed space. I can't say that was always the case with vendors. They kind of had a system that was the system, and we just had to work with it. One of the things that Touchwork does is we really listen to customers and we adjust. So, as an example, like that Chat GPT functionality for responding to customers, um, originally there was just one tone. And so it wasn't as easy for our customers to use because they wanted a playful tone and they wanted something that could be adjusted. So we adjusted that for them. So again, we try to make it so that it is very easy to use, that it takes the guesswork and out of, making it functional. And then as far as asking questions of the AI, we have compiled lists of questions that we know catering is using and that it's pulling good data so that you don't have to guess questions to ask the AI. You can ask it whatever you want. But we've also compiled a list to make it as easy as possible for you.
Brilliant, thank you. And then one last one for you. What are the biggest challenges your customers face when beginning to use the AI system to sort data?
Yeah, I think that goes back to questions, right? So, what questions do we actually want to ask of the data to get the results that we want? So, I think that typically is where you'll have the biggest challenge, which is again why we created that list of questions so that it makes it easy for you to kind of sift through the questions rather than having to reinvent the wheel and start from scratch. So, I would say that's the biggest challenge, but we definitely have resources available to make it as easy as possible.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you for joining us this morning for you. Um,
Yes,
uh,
absolutely.
Thank you everyone else for taking part in this session. If you've got any questions, please get in touch with me. You can use the details in your registration email and I'll pass them on to Jenny for you. We'll be happy to help, I'm sure. I hope you join us next for the next session, which is Sanjni Patel from Topanga. We'll see you over there shortly. And thank you again, Jenny, for joining us. Appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Have a great day, everyone.